everybody. How's it going? Excited to be here. Yep. We have a company called Social U, and we do a bunch of nerd stuff, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. For some reason, I'm the guy that got picked to talk about genius, so sorry about that. We're in a building called the Wheelhouse at the corner of Main and Holtzclaw, so come by and check us out. That's some of our space in there, and that's a fake view of what it would look like, and we're kind of over here in this part. So come on by. Plus Coffee's over here, so you can have some coffee and hang out. So yeah, so we do, my wife calls this my man art. I have paintings of aliens and robots invading Chattanooga, so I don't know, whatever that says about me. We also have humongous cardboard guns on our wall. Yeah, I don't know, so just pray for me or something. So they're really big, so Tyler on our team makes those, so just wanted you to see what that looked like. I am married and I have 3 kids. I've been married for a little over 24 years, and I have a daughter who's just about to turn 24. I have a son who's almost 17, and I have a little baby that's 4.5 months old. What? So how about that? So all kinds of crazy happening in my house, and we also have a dog that doesn't exist anymore in our family. Apparently, she's like, "What about me, guys?" No, we love her too. Her name's Roxy, a little Boston Terrier. So, am I a genius? I'm not sure, but today I'm going to kind of work you through some things that maybe will give you at least some tips, tricks, and hacks that'll help you maybe find your inner genius in the process. So, this guy Thomas, in his early years, his teachers told Thomas that he was just too stupid to learn anything, and work was no better. He got fired from his first 2 jobs. And eventually he was an inventor, and you've heard of him mentioned already this morning, Thomas Edison. There's this guy that didn't speak until he was 4 years old, and he didn't read until he was 7. And his name is Albert Einstein, and so it kind of worked out okay for him, but in the beginning it wasn't so awesome. This guy was fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. He tried to create a park in Anaheim that the organization, the government there was like, it's just going to be riffraff. They're going to show up. It'll be terrible. That park's called Disneyland. There was this guy who sold only 1 painting in his whole life, and it was for about $50 to his friend's sister. He only sold 1. He made about 800 paintings. His name is Vincent van Gogh. And so there was this teacher of this young man named Ludwig, and she called him hopeless as a composer. You may have heard of him, and he did quite a few symphonies. In fact, 5 of the most famous he composed when he was deaf. This guy, he was like, I'm really awesome. I love cartoons. I'm going to draw these cartoons. He submitted it to his high school yearbook staff. He's like, check these out. And they're like, they're terrible. Later, he tried to go work for Walt Disney, and they wouldn't hire him. And he created a little cartoon called Charlie Brown. And this guy couldn't get a job at Netscape. He created a company. He got fired from it. His company PayPal was voted one of the 10 worst companies ever. Later, he finally starts getting some traction, and then he gets a McLaren F1, which is about $1 million car, and then he kind of lost that traction and wrecked that. So that's always a bummer when, maybe you've wrecked your car, but when it's $1 million, it's a little more of a bummer. He was fired from PayPal on his honeymoon. And while he was traveling, he got a form of malaria that almost killed him. In fact, he has a quote that says, "Vacation will kill you." So SpaceX and Tesla were on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008, and he made a bunch of rockets, and a whole bunch of them exploded, including one with a $300 million satellite from Facebook on it. That's a bummer. He's worth about $15 billion now. So the question is, what do these people have in common, right? Obviously, in 20 minutes, I can't go through all the things, and maybe you're picking up on a slight theme of where I'm going to focus this talk. You know, one thing I would say about genius is they reject the world the way it is. They're not ready to handle things as they are. They're ready to improve and change things. And not only do they reject it, but they have the braveness really to go against what a lot of social norms are. And this is the thing we admire about them. And so what I would say about this is they've also had a ton of pain. They've had a ton of pain. They haven't just had this easy life. And we'll come back to this, but I will tell you, I think this could be a key ingredient that you're trying to avoid that is exactly totally synonymous and common with genius. So, I would say, of course, that I think most geniuses are, in fact, unique. And it's early, but hang with me on this sentence. So if you want to be like them, you need to stop trying to be like them. Does that make sense? Because if they're unique and you're trying to be like the unique person, it's not unique anymore. So instead, what I would say is that uniqueness is their power and that really uniqueness is your power. And so if you're not really focusing in on your power of your uniqueness, you're missing out. Because you can't have anyone else's life. You can't have my life, and I can't have your life. That's just the way it works. That's the unique thing that I possess, is my ability to have my life, and so you need to have yours. So in no particular order, I have a series of random thoughts that I'd like to share with you. Please unbuckle your seatbelts, and let's get started. Okay, the first one is admiration is not the same as aspiration. If you're admiring somebody, it's not the same as aspiring to be them, and you need to understand the difference, because aspiring to be like some of these people, if you really understand their stories, it's hard. It's super hard. I like to joke and say I'm bald for a reason. And so it's hard, right? And so some of you in this room today are like, I feel weird. I've been told something that I actually believe is a lie. And it's something that's been told to you, and you feel uncomfortable because you're trying to do it. And some of you are sitting here today, this morning, feeling unfulfilled. You feel weird because you've followed some really terrible advice. And the advice is find your passion and follow your passion. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. No, that's good advice. That's really good advice. And I'm here to tell you it's not. And I'll clarify. But I'm here to tell you it's not. And so if you're a person that's sitting there, and if I wrote down like, yes, are you following your passion? Yes. Do you do all the things you're passionate about? Of course. But if you're sitting here today and you're like, I'm numb, I'm non-inspired, I'm apathetic, I'm just kind of going through the routine, you're probably also feeling confused. And like, why do I feel this way if I'm following my passion? And what I would like to argue is that passion is not the same as purpose. Passion is not the same as purpose. And what I want to say about that is I believe that passion is self-focused. It's all about me and what I want and what I'm good at. Should you know thyself, right? Yes, of course you should. Should you be great at the things that you do? Of course you should. But, that's what I'm saying. But that's not it. That's not it. Instead, push out, right? So the reason we think these people are geniuses is not because they self-served. It's because they pushed out of themselves and made broad change in the world. In fact, I would argue that self-focus is suffering. It's something that you should do in moments, but not spend your life doing. Can you imagine how intolerable you must be if all you care about is you? I can't imagine having to be around you, so stop it already. And instead, push out to others, and this is the secret to happiness. Focus your life on others. Quit focusing on yourself. If you're a depressed, sad person, I can almost guarantee you that you're spending an inordinate amount of time thinking about you. Stop it. Okay, next topic, the creative process. What is the creative process? I think if I asked you to diagram it, it would probably be something like this. I don't know. I come from a background of like instructional design stuff, and so I wanted to introduce you something that's not my thing, but it's just instructional systems design processes. And it's really fairly straightforward, but I want you to see if this maybe is a framework that you can use in your creative endeavors. And it starts with analysis, figuring out what is it that really needs to happen, and then beginning to apply a design to that, ultimately developing whatever it is around that you're building, implementing that, and then this loop of evaluating that and pulling that back and kind of going in this continuous loop journey. So I don't know if this will work for you. I don't have time to unpack it, but ta-da, here's a thing that may be helpful to you. It's the acronym ADDIE, and check that out. You can Google probably better than me, so find out what you think about that. Okay, so one of my first theses I want to bring up to you today is that I believe ideas are incredibly common. You've been told a lie that ideas are magical and unique, but I can tell you that they're not. They're very, very common. And so if you're sitting there like, I'm an idea guy or I'm an idea gal, I can tell you that you're probably someone who doesn't get anything done. And so ideas are common. So how do I mean about ideas are common? What I would tell you is this. Have you ever seen an infomercial of any kind, and I want you to participate and raise your hand, where you or someone you know has seen some stupid product and they have said this statement, I totally had that idea. If that is you or you've been around somebody who's had an idea that you've seen somebody make, just raise your hand. Just raise your hand, and now look around. Keep your hands up, look around. Okay, so what's the deal? How can we all have, you can put your hands down, how can we all have this shared experience? How can we all have that shared experience? How did I know that everyone would raise their hand for all these stupid things? Because ideas are in fact common. They're not rare. Quit thinking that your ideas are rare. They're not. They're common. Everyone has ideas. So if it's not ideas that are rare and ideas are common, there must be something else that distinguishes ourselves. But if you think you're an idea person and that makes you valuable, you are valuable. An idea is like a key ingredient, but it by itself is like a steak that's uncooked. So it's not useful in that state, okay? So my key word, this is my wife pushing a boulder in Colorado or something. My key word for the year is inertia. And to be slightly physics nerd on you, what I would say is an object in rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion pretty much, right? So the deal is what I'm after is inertia in my life. And so the analogy I'm going to give, which will be poor, because I can't imagine really probably anyone's had this experience, but has anyone had the experience of trying to drive a manual steering car? Of course. Oh, actually some of you. Awesome. Yeah, great. Cool. Well, if you've had that experience, let me just kind of tell you, and you can make sure I'm telling the truth. If you're sitting still in that car and you're like, cool, I'm going to get started, but I'm going to start by turning to the left, it's like, oh, dear God. You know, it's like that's a level of effort substantially more than I expected to have, right? So, but when you're driving on the road and you're going fast down the road and you're on the interstate, very little effort is required in order to move that car. And the same is true, right, for a power steering car. If you're driving fast down the interstate and you need to go over even 3 lanes, it's a small adjustment to the steering wheel. And so likewise in your life, it's about momentum. It's about inertia. It's about keeping an object in motion. Keep it in motion and push. It's much easier to steer. And it doesn't require even the same amount of effort. Could you imagine if you're on the interstate and went like this? That'd be catastrophic, right? So now you get to do these more fine-tuned adjustments. So what I would say is you don't have to have it all figured out before you can begin moving forward. And then I want to put this out there, that I believe that progress is greater than perfection. And so when we look at these two things and really think this through, I think so many of us are caught in perfection, and this was my disease. So my disease was perfection. I wanted everything to be super awesome. I wanted a level of excellence that was better. I wanted to be better. And so I think I want to free you from that this morning, and I want to tell you that especially as you're building things for others, you can only guess. We like to say that we guess and users decide. So as we're building software, we do our best guess as to what this is, but ultimately our users decide and tell us. And so our customers will always take progress over perfection. As long as things are getting done and we're moving, then that's good, okay? Next topic, focus. So when we think about focus, I believe that which you give energy to will expand. And so the way I'm going to demonstrate this is with a really weird principle, and it is called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, and that's a weird name, so let me just quickly explain it. Have you ever bought a car, and the day you bought the car, the next morning you're driving to work, and you're like, my car's so awesome. Interesting, there's another car just like mine. Driving along, cool, there's another car. Pull in the parking lot, it's like 17 cars that are just like yours. Okay, so who's had the experience of buying a car and suddenly seeing the car everywhere? Just raise your hand. Okay, see how everyone's had that experience of that? So the deal is, this thing is called this Baader-Meinhof or frequency illusion or recency illusion. And the deal is this, that as you have this thing happen to you, what really was happening is your brain's like, I identify with this thing, in this case a car, or whatever it is. But once you've gotten something, you've suddenly noticed it a lot, okay? So the deal is, what I'm trying to prove to you about that is your brain is always passively searching for the thing that you're trying to bring into existence. So if you're not clear on what it is you're trying to do, you're going to miss the times that it's right there in front of you. So take advantage of this and do this. Okay, so when we talk about goals then, that's what we're talking about, is how do we set a goal that's going to pull these things towards us. And so I'm going to talk to you about means goals versus ends goals. And means goals have the word so in them. For instance, I want to make a lot of money so that I can go travel the world. Okay, so we're going to skip means goals and we're going to focus on ends goals. I want to travel the world. Right? Because there's probably a lot of ways to do that. I've met some friends that are not particularly wealthy that have just sold everything they had and traveled the world. There's a lot of ways to accomplish the task. So focus on ends, not on means. So, hi, good morning. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to go fast. So there'll be a video of this you can watch later. But these are the three kind of columns I want you to focus on when you're creating goals. And that first column is experiences. What are the experiences I want out of my life? Okay? And then the second one is growth. Like, what do I have to do? How do I have to grow in order to take advantage of these experiences? And then lastly, what is my contribution? What is it that I'm going to give back to the world? And I'm telling you, if you use this framework of these three different kind of columns, you imagine columns on a page, write out what is it I want to experience in my life. And many times the most vast and amazing experiences have nothing to do with money. So if you haven't done that yet, just realize money does not equal experience. And do that and figure out these steps. Okay, cool. So as great as it is to achieve, it's more important to enjoy. And I think so many people get kind of myopic and focused on just the path that they're unable to kind of experience the journey along the way, right? So I could get so focused on my presentation that I'm not able to just enjoy the experience that we have among ourselves being here in this moment, right? So, so here's this idea. Random thoughts about genius. So this idea is that we kind of believe that the energy and the action we push into something is the energy and the action we get out of something. And what I would argue is life is not a lot like physics in this way. And so what I would say is that there's important things and unimportant things that are spending your time, and I'll give you a quick little formula of how to handle that. When we think about important things, this is from Stephen Covey, there's really these two quadrants, there's going to be a total of 4 showed here, these top 2, though, are about necessity and quality. And so necessity is like when I have to get something done, I got to get it done right now. So for instance, if I wasn't done with my presentation, this is hypothetical, asking for a friend, but like this morning at like 7 something, there would be a feeling of crisis of like I should finish this because soon I'll have to deliver it, right? And maybe in that moment of crisis, I may not get the level of excellence exactly that I wanted out of each and every slide, right? So, but ultimately, we're trying to go to that upper quadrant. So these other 2 quadrants that are down below are about deception and waste. So these are things like basically every interruption, probably most of your text messages. This is probably almost every meeting that you go to. These are phenomenal waste of your time. And so avoid them like the plague. And so these waste things are, you may say like, well, I love video games and I love watching Netflix and binge watching is my favorite skill. And that's cool. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that if you look at geniuses, that's probably missing from the set of ingredients that they put in their life to get the output that they got. Okay? So Stephen Covey has that. It's not my idea. Hey, here's the deal. I think busyness is the new status symbol. So I think there's this thing that's all super broken in your brain that's like, dude, I'm super important. Look at my calendar, you know? And honestly, I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, nope, delete, delete, delete. Like, what is it I can get rid of? Quit. You have miswiring in your brain. My wife got like a physical day planner, which apparently is a thing you can still buy. And apparently it's making a resurgence and like people are getting into paper again. And it has a whole set of stickers that all say something about busy, busy, busy. You know, it's like all these different ways to put that you're busy. Man, can I just free you from this morning? You don't have to be busy to be valuable, okay? Just be freed from that. Instead, what I would like to say is, when I look at that, I just go, man, you have a ton of noise in your life and it's not music. And so let's take noise out and let's put music in. Like, let's organize it, let's structure it. Are there things that we all have to do? Of course. Let's stop doing so much of it. So there's this guy, and his name is Wilfred Pareto, and he was born in the 1800s, and he created this thing that's called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. And he was doing it looking at some socioeconomic stuff, but it's kind of turned out to realize that this is really kind of a thing that works in almost everything. And essentially what it says is that 20% of your effort in your life is what's yielding 80% of the results. If you're a freelancer, probably 20% of your clients are generating 80% of your revenue. If you're somebody that's like, if you really think through like all the busy that you do, if you think through the things that are like moving it to the direction you want to go, it's probably 20% of that makes 80% of the progress. So if that's true, then that means there's 80% of the stuff that you're doing that's really wasting your life, and stop it. Stop it. Just figure out ways to stop it. How are you going to stop it? I don't know. Figure it out. You're smart. You're a genius. So do it. But do it and like figure it out and like get to the stuff that matters. And I think there's this short game that everybody's trying to play, and they're missing that all this takes crap loads of time. Like, this is not fast. So like, you're watching this highlight reel of someone else on social media, and you're like, dang it, they're on vacation. Oh, they got a Tesla. And you're like looking at that stuff, and you're missing it because you don't know their whole journey. You don't know their whole story. You don't know all the parts that took them to get there, and their journey's not your journey, because you're unique, and you're you, and you're not them. So it's going to take time. It's not fast. And so we have a tendency to gravitate like bugs to a light of the fast stories. And so we think that's common, but those are very rare. So it's a journey, and the journey is hard. Study a genius, the journey is hard. And in the beginning, the artist wasn't an amazing expert the first time they drew, right? It's a journey that we go through. And so you're on the train, you're going on the journey. Okay, which leads me to perseverance. And our friend Edison says, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. 1,000 steps, unfortunately for some of you, sounds monumentally terrible right now. It's like 1,000. I could never do it. Well, then maybe this life is not for you. This life is hard. It's not easy. It's not simple. And so, hashtag the struggle is real. I think, what I would say is that this is funny, and this is also not funny. So this is like both funny and not funny. Like, I get it. It's hilarious, and I don't want to be like the dud in the room. But it's also kind of not funny, because it's like, no, seriously, the struggle is real, and it's not this crap. And so we've gotten confused, and we've thought like, oh, it's this stuff that's the struggle. And it's not, y'all. Life is hard. Life is super hard. It's not simple. It's not like, oh, you just start and then you finish and yay. It's not like that. It's hard. It's a journey of growth. And, the way we build a muscle is we first tear it. And so you have to be torn. The muscle has to be torn. Okay, so to be great, I believe suffering is involved. So that's why I'm not selling anything today. Because that's not a really good sales slogan. It's like, are you wanting to suffer more? You may be ready for genius. It's not a great sales, but I'm like here to tell you like it is, right? This is the real deal. So Kaizen is a word that I use a lot, and it's Japanese, and those letters mean change is good. And it really means continuous improvement. And so I've kind of modified this, and I've changed it to this word of relentless improvement. And really what I believe is that it is a forceful struggle every day to make everything better. All the anti-forces are coming into your life, all pushing you away from being the best. There's tons and tons of anti-forces pushing against you, and it's your job to push through those relentlessly. Relentless. You're a bulldog just like pushing. You need to push. Y'all are awesome. You're capable of this. You got to push. You can't just give up so easy. You got to push. It's hard. It's relentless, baby. You got to push. And so what I want to tell you is that ideas are common, so quit getting confused about that. It's not your freaking idea. And so instead, it's about finishing. Finish. Finishers are rare. You need to finish. Quit worrying so much about the idea and just start doing it, and you'll find out it was kind of wrong anyway, but it'll get you on the path to getting you where you need to go, and you need to finish because finishers are rare. Finishing the race is hard, and some of you start celebrating way too early. You start showing off of how awesome you are. Check me out, I'm so freaking awesome. And while you're doing that, somebody else is running faster and harder because they're relentlessly improving, and they're going to kick your butt. So don't let that happen, baby. I'm talking to you today, okay? So mistakes are teachers. Don't make any mistake about this. Mistakes are teachers. So learn from them. Learn from them. Learn from the mistakes and don't let them just sit there and like, oh, I suck so much. There's this guy who was trying to make the strongest glue that he could, and he failed so miserably that he created this thing that like just stuck and pulled right off and went back a gunt. And that was, I mean, he completely failed at his mission. And it's yellow because the lab next door, that's the only paper they had was yellow paper. So he cuts it, and it takes years, but ultimately they make this thing called Post-it notes, but it's all based off of failure because he did the exact opposite of what he was trying to achieve, but he was in momentum. He was in momentum, and being in momentum, he was able to turn that steering wheel, and it was able to go like, actually, this could be kind of awesome, and he was able to see the possibilities of what could happen. So what I want to tell you if you're afraid today is that I believe these 3 words can help you, which is action cures fear. Action cures fear. Action is the thing that's going to cure your fear. If you're afraid, action cures fear. It is action that is going to cure your fear. If you don't remember anything else that I'm trying to tell you today, I'm telling you that action cures your fear. So the junk that you're afraid about, that you're just convinced is what's like a terrible thing that's standing in your way, it's wrong. And all you have to do is take action and you'll fix that. And so I want to leave you with this quote. It's from a guy named Dr. Howard Thurman. I'm going to read it, and it just says this. It's a hospital bed. It says, the ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members standing around their bed, praying with them as they cross over. But imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around you are the ideas, the abilities, the talents, the dreams that have been given to you by your life. And for whatever reason, you never pursued those dreams. You never did anything with those ideas. You never used those talents. You never used those gifts or took advantage of those opportunities. And they're standing around your bed, and they are, while you're taking your last dying breath, they're staring at you with angry eyes. And they're saying, we came to you. You could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. You've got ideas. You're in the CreativeMornings group. You've got ideas. So quit thinking that's the end. That's the very, very, very beginning step. So go with it and do something. I think life is short. I think you shouldn't wait. I think you should quit shirking responsibility. Own it. Take what the thing is that you need to do. Go for it. I think you need to be resourceful. This joke's not even funny to most of you. And I think you need to be hungry. You need to go after it. You need to grab it and take it and ultimately just do it. My name's Andre. Thank you for your time.
Well, we have a few minutes for some Q&A.
Okay.
If you guys are up for it,
Okay.
you guys seem up for it. And Andre, you seem more up for it.
I'm up.
All right, cool. First, I just wanted to say I'm really compelled by your point around the highlight reel, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the highlight reel view of genius is one that our culture just stands on so much. There's so much noise from social media and really media at large about like the high points of these geniuses' stories.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you think we deal with the tension from where we are to where we see these people being?
Well, we're depressed. So, I mean, like, we're depressed. We're going down. So Facebook has a real problem. Everyone's getting sad because they're looking at it and it's like, well, I don't have whatever this awesome thing is. I'm sad, you know. And so, it's a problem because social media is this drug that we're all addicted to, where it's like, just give me a little more, give me a little more. I don't know. I can tell you some of the best things that are happening in my life right now. I'm not posting at all on social media. And I'll tell you that those things, like I travel the world. I put this funny picture of the camel doing some weird thing, because it's just ridiculous looking. But I just don't really talk about it. And I'll tell you what's awesome about it not sharing on social media is your actual conversations with people are incredibly enriched. Because otherwise, it's like you go up to somebody and it's like, oh, hey, man, I haven't seen you in forever. Oh, that was awesome last week when you did the thing that you did, and it's like, oh, cool, I haven't talked to you in a year, but somehow you know about the only cool story I have. Awesome. And so when you don't have that, it gives you an opportunity to really begin to create relationship and share. So I don't know, I'm kind of anti-marketing or something. I don't know. I'm not proud of it. I'm just saying, like, I've just kind of stopped selling myself so much online.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I would say there's a confusion of if you are comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel, I mean, you're obviously not comparing to, it's not a fair comparison. It's not fair to you, so tell your brain, hey, this isn't a fair way for me to treat myself. Stop it already. So, yeah.
One of my favorite quotes on that, someone said, they realized like most of the way through their career that nobody knew what they were doing and they were all just making it up as they went along.
Yeah, Dilbert, the guy who wrote, Scott Adams, who wrote Dilbert, he has this thing in a book called the Dilbert Principle, and it's called the 1% rule. And it says if you know 1% more than somebody else about a particular subject, they have no way of measuring how much more you know. They just know that you know more. So maybe that'll free you this morning. You really just have to be 1% smarter than the people you're trying to impress. I just used Keynote this morning for the first time. I'm just kidding. Yeah, what else? What are thoughts, questions, ideas?
I'll mic up to you. Throw your hand up if you have a question for Andre. Oh, man.
Great, fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. I've overloaded you. Fantastic. Yeah, there's
We
one.
got one in the back.
Yeah, I'm very transparent.
Use microphone.
This is going to be good. This may be the best. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, okay. Like in my life specifically? Yeah, awesome. So, this is good. So this was a real tension I had with this talk of like, genius. Well, I don't think I'm a genius. That seems super arrogant to talk about my life story. So I kind of just skipped that. So like y'all are like, I don't really know who this guy was, but he said a lot of words really fast. So, but yeah, so I would say in the fast version of it, I would say the following things happened in my life. I got married, well, my wife, my girlfriend, this is how we start. My girlfriend got pregnant our senior year of senior year of high school, and we graduated high school, and then 5 days later we got married, and then 3 months later we had a not premature baby, Ashley, and I'm still married to the same woman. That's the lady there, and we were poor. We were super poor. So we were on WIC and TennCare, and I've stood in the line, and I've done all the things. We weren't on food stamps, but we totally could have been. And so, like, that's kind of where we started. And then I started like, well, this is anti-awesome, so we should probably work on, like, fixing this, right? So I had to, like, instantly become husband, dad, whatever, And so I went on a journey of doing a lot of hilarious things. There was this TV show called Home Shopping Network, and I was like, what do they do with the leftovers when they only have like 2 or 3 left? Because they had this countdown, and this is pre-internet. And so we drove to Florida, and then we went and just started buying pallets of the leftover stuff, and I took it to the East Ridge Flea Market, and I sold about $10,000 worth in the first weekend off of my $2,000 investment, and that was kind of awesome. And so I was like, oh, this is a cool thing to do when you're 18. So I did that for a bit. That was fun, and then the thrill was gone, and it kind of got fixed, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I started a job at TVA as like a tech support guy. I was always a nerd, so like while you awesome people were out doing awesome things when you were young, I was legit like, well, actually, the thing is that we can do with a computer is awesome. So good, guys. And so I did that, and I was doing really well, and then I got fired at TVA, and I negotiated. My only thought was like, well, I should tell Jennifer, before I call her, I should get another job. That way I can tell her I lost this job but got another one. And I did that somehow, and I made like more money, substantially, in the process, which is weird. And then I looped that a couple of times. Anyway, there's a lot of hilarious stories there. But what I would say is throughout the journey, I just kept pushing really hard and had lots of setbacks. Every time, like lots of setbacks. So But we went from government assisted. I remember sitting down with a guy who was really intense with me, and I was like, I'm the only husband that's like here, first of all, and you're talking to me and lecturing me about how I need to, be a good husband or dad or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I will pay more in taxes than you make a year. And I'm like, what a punk I was. But that was my drive. That was my push, was like, I'm gonna succeed. And so whatever, I bought stupid stuff like a Porsche and whatever, all that stuff early on, and did all that junk. And each step, I would say, of my journey has been met with substantial resistance. So, I don't have time to tell you all, but I promise I could tell you all day long, resistance after resistance after resistance. I'm legit bald for a reason. It was hard. It's hard. It's hard being married. It's hard being a dad. It's hard being an entrepreneur. Can I get an amen? It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not simple. And even just this year, my dad died in March. My son was born in April. That's confusing. That's a weird set of life experiences that I thought was like way past me. And so, what a blessing little Maxwell is. What an awesome, oh my gosh, I'm just addicted to him. So what I would just tell you is that I love being transparent. I could spend all day telling you all the things. And I would say, I think the level of transparency you're willing to go to is the level of success that you're about to get. So those of you that are kind of guarding it all and feel like you got to put on this show, you're not fooling us. No one's being fooled by that. No one's like, oh, they've got it all together. I wish they just know. We know. You know when somebody's full of it. And so hopefully you can kind of see, you're weighing me the whole time I'm talking. Is he legit or is he just making this crap up? Does he know what he's talking about? Has he been there? Has he gone down the path? Or is he just telling me about a book? And so hopefully you can sense which one it is, right? And so be the transparent one, and don't worry about being not awesome at something. That's how you'll be great at it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Good stuff.
I'm on the journey. I'm not check me out because I'm awesome. So I'm on the journey. All right, thank you all.